The phone rang at 12:03 a.m. I almost didn't answer. Then I heard her voice, thin, trembling. "Grandpa, Mommy says the baby is coming. Help!" My fingers tightened around the receiver. I asked, "Where's Daddy?" Her answer came like a blade between my ribs. "He kicked Mommy's tummy and left." Silence, the kind that rots in your chest. I told her to stay on the line, to keep talking, but her breath turned into quiet sobs, then a muffled voice in the background, and the call cut. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator suddenly deafening. My mind replayed her words, each one heavier than the last. Kicked, left, baby. I didn't move right away. Instead, I reached for my coat, my keys. My pulse was slow, too slow, the kind of calm that doesn't feel like calm at all, more like the stillness before a fire starts. I knew I'd be driving into something ugly. I just didn't know yet how ugly. When I reached their house, the lights were on, but the curtains drawn. The front door was locked. No answer when I knocked. Through the gap in the blinds, I saw movement. My daughter-in-law on the floor, clutching her stomach. My granddaughter beside her, crying. I forced the door open. The air was thick with that metallic smell, blood and fear. She looked at me, wide-eyed, but didn't speak. Her phone was shattered on the floor. No sign of my son. I helped her to the couch, checked her pulse, called an ambulance. She flinched when I touched her arm, not from pain, but from something else, something heavier. At the hospital, they took her in immediately. I stayed with my granddaughter. She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't talk. When I asked what happened, she whispered only, "He was yelling about the baby, that it's not his." The words lodged in my skull. Not his. I didn't say a thing. Not to her, not to the police. I let them file their reports, ask their questions. Inside, the suspicion was already growing roots. 2 days later, I visited her at the hospital. She avoided eye contact, answered questions with rehearsed brevity. My son was still nowhere to be found. Her phone was replaced, a brand new device, spotless. Too spotless. I asked to borrow it to call my wife. She hesitated, too long, before handing it over. I didn't call my wife. I checked the photos, the messages. Everything before last week was gone. That night, I contacted a private lab, paid extra for expedited results. I didn't tell anyone, not even my wife, what I was sending them. A sample from the baby, a sample from my son, taken from an old razor he left at my place. The waiting was the hardest part, but I stayed silent. I visited every day, smiled, played the role. Inside, the math kept doing itself. My son's absence, her locked-down phone, her flinch when my granddaughter mentioned the baby's name. Piece by piece, the truth was building itself. And I knew when it was finished, it would be sharp enough to cut. The results came in on a Tuesday morning. I sat in my car and opened the envelope. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. My pulse didn't change. My breathing stayed steady. It was almost disappointing how unsurprised I felt. That evening I went to the hospital. She was propped up in bed, scrolling through her new phone. My granddaughter was asleep in the corner. I sat down, placed the sealed envelope on her lap. She looked at it, then at me. "What's this?" "Open it." She did. Her fingers trembled, but not from weakness. When she read the numbers, her face drained of color. I didn't let her finish. "He knows," I said quietly. "That's why he left." Her lips parted, but no sound came. She reached for words, for excuses, but found none. I stood, picked up my granddaughter, and walked out. 2 days later, I found my son. He was in a bar, unshaven, reeking of whiskey. I sat across from him without asking, placed the same envelope on the sticky table between us. He stared at it, then at me. "I already know," he muttered. "Good," I said. "Now listen." I told him the hospital bills were paid, that his daughter was safe, that the baby was not his and never would be. I told him he would sign over guardianship of his daughter to me. No custody battles, no visits without my consent. He tried to argue. I didn't raise my voice. You hit a pregnant woman in front of your child, I said. You vanish, you drink, you hide. You're done. When he realized I wasn't bluffing, when he saw I was prepared to bury him in court if needed, he signed. He didn't look at me again. A week later, I stood in my kitchen again. Same hum of the refrigerator, same hour of the night. My granddaughter slept upstairs, her breathing steady, safe. The baby, her half-brother, would grow up without the man who broke him before he was born. And my son, well, he had nothing left to break. I didn't feel victory, not satisfaction, just quiet. Some truths don't set you free. They just close the door behind you and lock it.